Ah, 23rd. It's Tuesday, I believe. Uh, Anyways, I was on Facebook and talking with people, and there's this one individual that was getting started in the Tonkas, and they were asking how to begin. What do you start with? What do you use? And I got, honestly, for 10 people, you get 100 opinions. And so this is not the end all. This isn't the only way. This is just my way. And if you got a better way of doing it, sure, put it down in the comments. I'll be glad to listen to it. I've heard 100 videos and or read it, seen 100 videos and that. So I'm always game for something else. And in fact, most of the techniques I've learned is from watching other videos. But this is going to kind of in a nutshell. This is for the guy he's working in his garage like I am. This is not for the guy who's got the respirators and a TIG welder and a metal brake and shears and all that. Those guys, you're way beyond this, and if you're here, just pass on. This is not for you. This is for the guy who's just getting started. He found a couple Tonkas he wants to work on, and where to begin? What do you need? So that's where we're going to start. And all right, so let's dive into it. So you've got this Tonka, and in the second part, I'll show you some that I got in places to watch for, things to look for. But for right now, the basic tools are what you're going to need. Well, you got to get the joker apart for first. To do that, there's a couple different ways. Cordless drill. This is a 7/32 bit. I tell you, this will take just about every one of the rivets off a Tonka out. The thing is, not the cheap ones. Go down to one of your auto supply, or not auto supply, but a production supply, and get you a really good bit. And it's got to be sharp. And on the second part, I'll explain why it's got to be sharp. But 7/32 bit or so, what you're going to be doing is drilling out the heads of the rivets, or the tails of the rivets, where you're from, right? And to pop out the axles and the pivot points. So drill bit, good job. Some of them you can't get to with the drill bit. They're at an angle, they're deep in, whatever. Dremel motor, power motor, whatever, right? This is a sanding band. You can get these Dremel. They're kind of pricey, so do your due diligence, hunt around on the web. But this is what they're called. This is really good for just getting off just the head. You're just going to grind off the head. Another way to do it is with one of the Dremel's I don't know, is that granite? What is that? It's a stone kind of thing. Another really good one for knocking the head off. These are good for getting those out when you can't get to it with the drill. For me, drill's the way to go, but some of them are a little more recessed, a little more difficult to get to, and those will really do a nice job to get you right in and out. If safety's your thing, safety goggles, all that's up to you, right? The other thing I want to mention is when you're doing that, when you're disassemblies, if you're starting off with the Mighty series, the Mighty dump truck, the Mighty dozers, the front end loaders, you're going to see this. This is the axle, and this may or may not show, but you see that end? That's on there. That's not pressed on. That is a part of the axle. And so to get this axle off, you take off the cap end. So when you're looking at your Tonka, when you're looking at that, you're going to see your two axles. One's going to be solid, which this is. You can't see it from here, but it's going to be solid. And there's the other one's going to be pressed on. Remember I was showing you the Dremel motor? Check this out. Cut off wheel. Cut off wheel. Set the axle on there, press it up so it clears the wheel. Take your cut off wheel and cut the top of that cap right off. It'll fall off, you're done. It's a 2-minute process. You'll see people out there using pliers and duck bills and screwdrivers and that. 3 minutes. You cut the end off, the cap falls off, you're done. It's over. Now, you are going to encounter on the smaller ones, you can't do it. The caps are recessed. They're recessed inside of the wheels. And so if you try going at it with this or pliers or anything else like that, you're going to chew that wheel up, and you don't want to do that. This again, what I'm talking about. Look, on one end, it's solid. On the other end, it's pressed on. If you can get to it, you can cut that joker off. it'll pop right off. Now, as you go on and as you learn, you're going to find out it's easier. Cut that thing off. Go down to your hardware store. Get yourself some 3/16 rod. Make your own. 2 push caps on it. You're good to go. No rusty thing to deal with. Takes less than 3 minutes to cut that thing off. New rod, shiny. You're all good. This is maybe $2-3 for like 3 or 4 feet. So it's not a huge investment. It's a pretty reasonable investment. So there you go. You can drill out the rivets. You can cut off the axles, or you can cut off the caps. Now you're working on getting this thing apart. And then the next step is, you got it apart, it's in pieces. I'm going to show you over there some cautions, but for the most part, you got it off. Now what do you do? If it's in good shape, maybe use some of that purple power. You've heard about it, you read about it. Purple power, do it. That stuff's tough, so use caution. If you're worried about your decals and that's not the way to go. And in the second one, I'll talk a little bit more about decals, but be careful with that stuff. It does the job, it really does, but there's a learning curve that goes with it, so be careful. So the next step, you got rust and you got paint. The rust, I've got the luxury, I got a big compressor, wire wheel. Another tool that if you have, it's good. You don't got it, that's okay. Drill wire wheel. You're back in business, right? Another tool, again, this is for cleaning up and sanding up. One of these oscillating, I think this is called oscillating sanders. Awesome. This tip gets right into the corners. 60, 80, 100, 200 grit. Does an awesome job. But before you do that, there's a couple different roads you can go. And this is, again, where experience goes. There's strippers out there for the paint. You'll hear, and I'll show you later on, there are organic ones, this citrus strippers. And then there's the stuff that comes in a blue can. There's a chemical that was in these that they're now discontinuing. So it's getting more difficult to find, but this quick strip is another one. And then, of all things, vinegar, distilled vinegar. Get yourself a tote, 3 gallons of vinegar, glug, glug, glug. You put the part in it, and depending on the year of the Tonka, paint will fall off. The paint just peels right off. It falls off. And it neutralizes, to an extent, the rust. A lot of the rust will just dissolve-ish, right? And so then you're back into your wire wheels, your sanding machines, again, just sanders, block sanders, whatever you want to use. Steel wool, there's different grades. I'll show you again on the next one where we talk about paint removal and finishing and that. So we've got it now, in the second part we're covering more. We got it now disassembled, we've got it stripped. We'll talk about painting, but coming back, and again, drawing this mostly toward the tool end, what you're going to need before you start. We're going to start now talking about reassembly. There are different types of rivets out there, and I tell you what, if I mentioned 3, somebody else would come by with 10 more. But basically, what Tonka used were called tubular. The little hole in the bottom, and then the metal on top. You can barely see it there, right? And then there's a hole, slippery little joker. And the way those work is, there's a machine, when they were making these, that they'd pop this in, the machine come down and press it, and then they'd roll it over tight as you please. They don't make those machines, but they do make a C-clamp like this. You can make it out of, turn it upside down a little bit. See that little ball right there? Right at the tip there? What happens is, you put your rivet through the 2 pieces, you put that rivet in there, and that little beam, and then this clamp-like action, presses it down and rolls it. Tell you what, you need 4 hands to use this thing because you're holding it in there, you're trying to get this, you're trying to get the parts, so you're going to need some way of holding down your Tonka. You're going to need a pair of fingers to hold this, and you're going to need a hand to hold this, and you're going to need a hand to hold this. Good luck with that. I've tried it, some success. If you're at this size, which is about 3/16, which is pretty much what this is made for, you'll be okay. Not great, but you'll be okay. It's a skill set you're going to have to teach yourself. If you go into and you're dealing with the little Jeeps, the little Tonka Jeeps, that in the back there's a tiny, tiny little itsy bitsy teeny weeny rivet. Again, you're using something like this to do it. Oh my gosh, it's such a bugger. I had a good friend of mine, he machined me a new tip on there and I broke it instantly. It's so small. Thank you to him for doing it, but it just didn't hold up. Traditional pop rivet gun, that's the way I do it. It works very, very good. The one thing I do is I go back with the Dremel motor and I dress up the tip depending on which side this went on. I also use backup washers, backup plates, backup washers. This allows the rivet to catch on the other side and pull it in. If you're restoring and you're restoring for profit or restoring it, that's not the way to go. You're going to want to go on to the web and find toy restorations in that and get the real deal. This, again, this is what I do for my grands and for the kids. These are meant to be played with. They're meant to be beaten and left outside in the rain. So I'm doing what works solid, and I'm not really spending a lot of money doing it. So there's just some basic tools right there. We're talking about a pop rivet gun. I tell you, you can get this. It's about $40 or so more dollars US. I bought it, and I think I've used it just a few times. Not a big fan, like the pop rivets. Let me pause, time out. For the axles, you're going to see and you're going to hear about push caps. They're called push caps. And predominantly it's used on the axles. They look like the little top hats. Let's see if can I show it to you? Yeah, they're like little top hats. They come in a variety of ends. This one's got a star in it. Primo, this is the way to go. You push these on, they do not come off. They work really good. The next kind is, it's got a little notch in it. See it? This is another kind, and there's a technique to this that I found helpful. And again, when we go into reassembly, I'll talk about that. But push caps, you can get these at your local hardware stores, the big bulk ones, one with the orange and white sign, or the one with the blue and white. You can go there and get them. You can order them online. I tell you, I ordered some up not too long ago, and they came from somewhere, and they were just terrible. They did not stay on. They were the wrong size. They were terrible. So I hit your hardware store, support your local places. That'll help you out in the long run. So I forgot to mention it, want to bring that in. That's how you do your axles and the other stuff. There's a little more advanced technique that I've been doing lately that I'm really pleased with. And I drill and tap. I put a machine screw in it and Loctite. That joker is never coming off. And it works just as fine. I'm not messing around with stuff. I mean, it's a good solid connection. So that's basically it. That's your tearing down and putting back. What have I mentioned here? I got a pop rivet gun, a hammer, a Dremel motor with the sanding bands or the grinders, a nice sander of some sort. I like it's by Works. I hate to be a commercial, but I got to tell you, at the one store that's got the blue and white, these are like $40. These pads, you can get 10, 20 of them for $15. So, and they go forever, and they go and go, and you get right in the corners. A little palm sander, if you got one of those. Again, you're going to stay small. There's a lot of intricate corners in these things, so you're going to want something that can point in it. And again, that's when you're dealing with the real heavy rust. So as far as tools go, cordless drill, 7/32 drill bit or so. Sharp, that's important. Sharp drill. Sander, I've got access to an air tool with a wire wheel, really good for cleaning up the really hard rust. Again, that's what I deal in. If it doesn't have rust on it, I'm not interested in it. So that's basically it. Hope it helps you. Look forward to seeing you again, and till then, catch you next time.